You're listening to the Toolstation Western League podcast with Ian Knockholds and Tom Hiscott.
Welcome, listeners, to episode 10 of the Toolstation Western League podcast with me, Ian Knockholds, and I am delighted to be joined on the line by Tom Hiscott, the author of the Bulletin. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks. How about yourself?
Well, I'm very well. I'd like to tell you about my weekend, but I know that you've been watching your other love, American football, but you've been doing it in a rather British place because, of course, you have been to the new Tottenham Stadium. How did you find it?
Yeah, absolutely wicked. I don't think there would be a bad seat in the house at that place. It's like, as state of the art as you can imagine. Absolutely wicked atmosphere, and pretty good game to watch on Sunday. So that was the pinnacle of my weekend.
And who were the protagonists?
We had the Carolina Panthers who beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it was a divisional game. So not quite a rivalry, I wouldn't call it, but they're playing the same division, so know each other quite well. So it was a pretty important game, and it was played out pretty well. And as you say, I mean, the stadium and what have you is totally awesome. A football atmosphere would be just as brilliant, I'm sure, on a Saturday afternoon. So I definitely would recommend to others if the opportunity arises.
Did you have one of those pints that fills from the bottom?
I did see them in action. Somebody foolishly alongside from us started playing around with the bottom and then looked a bit miffed, and when they found the drink was all had dropped on their laps, but so I wasn't quite that stupid, fortunately. That's it was an interesting conception, and pretty cool.
Right, well, there you go. There's a moral in that story there. Excellent. I had a fantastic weekend. I was at Southfields Recreation Ground for the game between Radstock and Cheddar, which is one of our featured games today. So I'll keep my powder dry on that one. Although I will say, of course, that Saturday, the 12th of October, was non-league day, which of course every year is scheduled to coincide with the international break. Non-league day provides a platform to promote the importance of affordable volunteer-led community football. It was set up in 2010 by James Doe as a social media experiment after being inspired by a pre-season trip to Devon to watch Queen's Park Rangers play our very own Tavistock, and of course has become an annual part of the footballing calendar ever since. And we this year the day is the charity partner for non-league day was prostate cancer, and I was very pleased to help Radstock promote a collection that they were doing on the day for that very worthy charity as well. So I had a great time, and I know that a number of clubs across the Western League were doing their bit to promote not only non-league day but also the charitable work that they're involved with as well. So for everybody who did participate in that, congratulations. We've got an awful lot of football to talk about, listeners. We've got FA Vase action, Premier Division action, and a pretty full fixture list in the First Division of the Toolstation Western League as well. Most of the midweek football was dominated by the County Cups, although there was a very interesting match in the Premier Division on the 8th of October where Calne took on Tavistock and played out a 1-1 draw, and really be very interesting to see. We probably won't know until later in the season whether or not for Tavistock that represents 2 points dropped, but a very good result there for Calne, because I don't think if we'd have been talking about that one on last week's podcast, we'd have given Calne much hope considering how well Tavistock have started their life in the Western League. But anyway, congratulations to them. We will start though by looking at the first round proper of the FA Vase, and some of our games of course did fall victim to the weather. Fortunately only two of our sides were unable to play. They'll be in action this week, but we do start our roundup with Bradford Town. They were at home to Lymington Town, and a very healthy attendance here, Tom.
I was about to say, good three-figure crowd there on Saturday afternoon. Despite, as you say, probably the weather was a bit worse in the morning than during the afternoon, but it was an enjoyable afternoon if you're a Bradford fan. A 1-0 win, so they're through to the next round. At home, beat Lymington. It was a first half goal from Matty Morris, which did the damage, and put the Bobcats in the hat for the next round.
I've been looking forward to hearing from Bradford Town on the podcast all season, and I'm very pleased to say that this week I've got an interview with Mark Hodkinson, the chairman of Bradford Town. And I started my conversation with Mark by congratulating him on that win against Lymington and the opportunity to play in the second round of the Vase.
It's a very important competition for us. So as far as, we just want to get as far as we possibly can, and it makes the club sort of stand out a little bit, and obviously financially it's good, and for the town it's it's good that we can try and get as far as we possibly can.
Now you travel to Baffins Milton Rovers in the next round, and you owe them one, don't you, after last season?
Well, yes, we do. I thought last year when we played them was probably one of the worst performances we had put in. I was so disappointed after that game because it was winnable. I felt, but on the day, cup football, you get what you put in, and unfortunately we didn't put enough into that game to get a result, and they progressed to the next round. So yes, as you say, I think we do owe them one, and we'll be going down there with every intention to get a result and come back and progress to the next round.
Well, that's the Vase, but you've had an excellent start to your league campaign this season. Is that something you expected going into this season?
When we sort of sat down and Wayne had agreed to stay, and we looked at potential players that we could bring in, potential players that wouldn't stay with us. Certainly, from what Wayne had said and the players he was looking to come in, yes, obviously, you don't try and get carried away with it right at the beginning of the season, but from the quality of the players, I thought, well, if we can get them and we can keep them and we can, get them to gel together, then yes, I felt that we would have a good chance of sort of being up and around that sort of end of the table.
Well, we'll get on to some of the players that you brought in a minute, but I mean, obviously one of the high-profile absences is Dan Cottle this season. I'll single him out because over the years I've been doing the podcast, he's been one of my favourite players to watch in the Western League. Is he an example of one of those players where perhaps on balance you looked at the players leaving, you looked at the players coming in? Did you feel that you were actually a stronger squad this season than you had been in the past?
Obviously Dan's a quality player. And the time that he's been at Bradford, he's been an absolute fantastic servant. He tried it at Frome once and it didn't work out. He came back. He had a fairly decent season when he came back, but decided, to try at a higher level. And we are a club that if someone wants to go higher, they go with our blessing. If they want to give it a go, give it a go. And I'm sure we will. I'm sure, he's another year older now. He probably knows what to expect. As for, I don't really like to look at individual players. It is a team game, and you've got to build a solid base and a solid spine. And if one individual goes, yes, it may be difficult to replace them, but we've brought in some real quality. So I feel that yes, it would have been nice for Dan to stay, but he made his choice. So we just need to get on with it, and we need to emphasise that we're a strong team and not just a team of individuals.
Well, let's talk about some of those players that you brought in. Now, normally on the podcast, I like to ask the managers about their pre-season business and whether they feel that they've strengthened. But many of the new faces that you have in your side at the moment, I'm quite familiar with, speaking as a Melksham Town fan. I suppose that's local football, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously nowadays people don't stay at clubs forever. Back in the day, players would probably stay at a club for 10, 15 years. And obviously managers change, circumstances change, and players move on. Obviously, the players that have come in from Melksham all know Wayne anyway, because Wayne is well known throughout the circuit. He's been at Melksham, sort of Larkhall as well, so he he knows an awful lot of players, and he identified players that he wanted at the beginning of the season, and we went along with that. I haven't got this thing where if you've played for someone else, you're not going to play for our club. My attitude is, if you're good enough and the manager wants you, well then, come in and you'll be welcome, with open arms and be part of they're Bradford players now, so anything else is forgotten. Now,
Bradford have been a big hitter in the Premier Division for some time now, certainly for as long as I've been doing the Western League podcast. But from your position as chairman, how strong do you think this season's Premier Division is compared to recent seasons?
I think over the last couple of seasons it's got a lot stronger from the last few years. There's certainly more teams that are capable of winning it or being in the top 2 or 3. Obviously, introductions of Plymouth Parkway a couple of seasons ago, Exmouth. So, I think at the moment it's the strongest it's been for a long time in depth. To maintain, a top 2 or a top 3, even a top 4 place at the moment, teams are going to have a good run of it. The main thing is not to, in the past, what's let us down is we've drawn too many games. I think you need to, even if you win a couple and lose one, is better off than drawing too many. But yeah, it's a strong league. There's some very, very good players in it, and even I hate the phrase of the teams sort of lower down the bottom or smaller teams. They can spring a surprise on the day. It's one of those leagues that, you just look at Wellington the other day. You can't be complacent in any way or form in this league.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the difficult nature of some of the teams further down the table, because for everything you've accomplished in the opening weeks of the season, you've got Brislington up next, and then it's Cribbs. Now, the form book says that those are 2 winnable games for you, and indeed, if you want to keep up your good run of form, you're going to need to take maximum points to keep pace with Parkway. But if we know anything about either Brislington or Cribbs, it's that on their day they're capable of pulling up a shock. So that's not going to be easy for you, is it?
No, we can't. You can't take any game lightly in this. Obviously, Brislington tomorrow night will be tough. They've signed a few players. Nicole Plummer, who was with us, has gone back there. So yes, and he's a quality player as well. So we have to be on our guard. We have to prepare properly, and you just cannot take any game lightly. And again, Cribbs, good football inside. Lovely pitch. Again, yeah, there's possibility of I don't like to call them shocks, because I think that's a bit disrespectful to a lot of the clubs, because everyone in this league, I think, can beat the other team. So you just have to be strong, and you have to keep to your game plan, and you have to be as professional as you can about it to get the results.
Now, one final question, Mark, and that's it always fascinates me when I meet the chairman of Western League clubs, because you're often to be found if you're not pulling pints, selling programmes, or sorting out the match day takings. I mean, can you give us a little bit of an insight into your life as a Western League chairman? Perhaps starting off by what got you into the role.
Well, I've been associated with Bradford for many years. I played there. I was actually manager there. I went away, and the chairman at the time, Les Stevens, who formed the club, who started the club with his wife, he was sort of, he's done everything for that club. It's his club, him and his wife. So it's their club. But they were coming towards, it was becoming more and more difficult for them to keep going as chairman and treasurer. And we sat down one evening, and he asked me whether I'd like to take it on. And I thought, if I didn't know who else would, if I'm totally honest. So I decided to give it a go. I spoke to a good friend of mine, who's now the vice chairman, Jonathan Phillips. And we decided that, yes, we would try and take the club forward. And, yes, it's very difficult. As you say, you know, you arrive probably at 12 o'clock after collecting the sort of after-match food. You then prepare the bar, you sort the programmes, you do this and you do that. And, you know, you might be able to watch about 60 minutes of the game before you're doing other things. And that's what you do for the club. You know, there's nothing, you don't do it for yourself. It is all about the club. And the most important thing, and it's like I always say to everyone, the most important thing is the club. It's not about, there's no hierarchy or anything like that. I've got the name as chairman, but, you know, I don't mind sweeping the changing rooms or doing whatever has to be done to get a match on.
And my thanks to Mark for his time. Now, moving on to our next featured game, and it's an old familiar friend. It's Malmesbury Victoria. We remember them, don't we? They took on, I'm going to say, a rejuvenated Roman Glass St George.
I think that'd be a good way to look at them right now. Yeah, they're starting to battle in their matches, and in this one they had to do it the hard way. Travelling to take on Malmesbury, and they were 3-1 down after about an hour. So looking like their Vase journey would come to a pretty premature end. But yeah, they managed to produce quite a comeback. 4 goals in the final half hour to progress to the second round. Ryan Radford, he's probably their leading marksman. George Box, Jack Trott and Matt Guy all finding the back of the net, and they smashed in a load of late goals and claimed a 5-3 win away at Malmesbury. So an absolutely fantastic comeback from Roman Glass St George.
Now, our next game is one of the games we talked about on last week's podcast, and we did speculate that if Bridgewater Town lingered a little bit too long at their opponents, they might fall victim of the October 31st Brexit deadline. No, they weren't really on the continent. Of course, they were on the Isle of Wight. They were at Newport. Well, they don't have to hang about too long. It was a bit of a smash and grab raid there, but Bridgewater progressed to the second round, Tom. Yeah,
indeed. A worthwhile trip across the channel for them. 2-0 victory. Just 5 minutes into the game, Jake Brown heading them ahead. Brilliant Harry Horton free kick put in, and Brown getting his head on it. And then towards the end of the first half, the home side had a man sent off, and Bridgewater took full advantage. Jake Llewellyn firing home from the penalty spot as he always does. I don't think I've ever known him to miss a penalty. Very reliable. There was a foul on Brown, and Llewellyn stepped up, made it 2-0, and that's how it stayed. So Bridgewater progressed to the second round.
Now, of course, all great stories in cinema feature a trilogy, and that's where we're up to in this particular fixture. Tavistock against Shepton Mallet, the third time that these two sides have met this season, and who were the victors here, Tom?
Indeed, they know each other pretty well, I think, these two sides. But it was Tavistock who ran out winners in this one, knocking Shepton out of another FA competition. And it was Jack Crago. I mean, this man doesn't stop scoring in cup competitions. So 3 goals for him inside the opening 23 minutes, a pretty fast hat trick. The Lambs running out 4-1 winners, and they will take on Exmouth in the next round. So another big clash for Tavistock and Crago to look forward to, but unfortunately Shepton, knocked out by Tavistock in another cup this season. So I'm sure they'll be wanting to get a bit of revenge in the league matches coming up.
Now, our final featured game in the FA Vase involves our last sole representative from the First Division, of course, the division that I spend most of my time watching in the Toolstation Western League, and it is my old friend Warminster Town. They were taking on another side from the Isle of Wight. This time it was East Cowes Victoria Athletic. They had to make their trip from the Isle of Wight to Wiltshire, and they went home unhappy, Tom.
They did, indeed. A 3-2 victory for Warminster. Brilliant result for the First Division side, as you say. Goals after the half-time whistle from Charlie Walton and then James Vincent, helping them to the 3-2 win. And they've been rewarded with another home tie in the next round. I think they're taking on AFC Portchester. So we'll see how they get on in that one. But congratulations to Warminster.
Now, moving on to the Premier Division, we had 5 games in the Premier Division on Saturday, so plenty of football to talk about. We start off by looking at Cadbury Heath against Chipping Sodbury Town.
Yeah, indeed, and there was actually lots going on. I mean, maybe a slightly shortened schedule, but all of these games seem to be got stuff going on everywhere. So it was a fascinating afternoon. Starting with Cadbury Heath, a 2-1 win over Chipping Sudbury Town, ending a spell of 7 matches without a win for the home side. So an important victory, and it was Matt Huxley scoring twice for the home side, either side of a penalty from Justin Bishop to hand Heath, as I say, a much needed 3 points.
Our next game features Hallen, a side we've already talked about once on the podcast. On this occasion, they visited Clevedon Town. Clevedon, of course, we know they always get good gates. But Hallen are going great guns. It must mean that Ray Johnson wants to get on the podcast. I can't think of any other reason for their outstanding performances. Anyway, Hallen taking all 3 points from this one, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Up to fourth now. Fantastic start for Hallen. And then, another team that came from behind to gain victory on Saturday afternoon. Twice falling behind, as I say. Zach Drew putting Clevedon ahead in the 21st minute before Aaron Robbins levelled things just before the break. But then Clevedon pushed ahead again in the second half. That was a goal from Jay Murray early in the second half to restore Clevedon's advantage. But then, it was all about Hallen. Carl Thomas equalising from the penalty spot following a handball, with Robbins then scoring his second of the match to give the visitors their first lead of the afternoon with 20 minutes left on the clock. And then it was substitute Ed Bamfo wrapping things up, and absolutely brilliant result for Hallen, as we say. Awesome start to the league season, up to the dizzy heights of fourth, and brilliant win away at Clevedon.
Now our next game is Street against Cribbs, and 5 goals here to talk about, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely, and 3 of them all belonging to one man. Man of the match, George Kello, scoring 3 for Cribbs in their latest victory. They did fall behind early in this one, but then Kello scoring twice in a frantic start to the game. His 2 early goals, putting them 2-1 up after just 13 minutes. So hope nobody was late to get to this one. Street then levelled midway through the first half with a draw then looking likely. It was Kello again, of course, popping up with a winner 6 minutes from time, completing his hat-trick and completing a brilliant win for Cribbs. Another away victory on Saturday afternoon. They won 3-2 away at Street.
And our next game also includes 5 goals, but this time they were only for one side. The home side was Wellington, the visitors Odd Down. Yeah,
Wellington, brilliant win. Obviously had a bit of a difficult start to life this season, but fantastic afternoon on Saturday. A volley finish from Joe Chamberlain putting them ahead at the break, but then after half time they were pretty rampant. Matt Dawson doubling their advantage before further goals from Tom Hawkins, Chamberlain again, and then second half substitute Ollie Holman giving them a pretty big victory over Odd Down.
If you're thinking, Toolstation, I know they'll save me money, but do they have all the top brands? You know, DeWalt, Makita, Einhell, Stanley, Myra, Kudox, Nest and Santex. Yeah, they do. Over 15,000 trade quality products in the range from the leading brands with prices that are hard to beat. If you want a helping hand to save on your next job, try Toolstation. With over 300 branches, there's always a Toolstation near you.
Now, we move into the First Division, where we kick off with a 6-goal thriller. This one between Ashton and Backwell United and everyone's favourite Jekyll and Hyde side, Corsham Town.
Indeed. Tough to predict Corsham, and it looked like they might be on their way to 3 points on Saturday afternoon. Taking a 10th minute lead through Luke Curtis before Curtis then turned provider a couple of minutes later, supplying the assist for Josh Bright to fire home a second, giving Corsham a pretty early 2-goal lead. The home side then got back on level terms. A Joe Bishop penalty and then a header from Harry Walker, drawing them level, as we say. Corsham but managed to fight back. Lee Rogers through ball, buried by Josh Hard to make it 3-2. But it was Ashton and Backwell who had the last word. Charlie Rich with an injury time free kick, and it ended 3-3. So a brilliant game there between Ashton and Corsham, and the points were shared.
On our next side, Calne Town, table toppers no less. They took on top of the table rivals Wells City, but it was a clear win for the Wiltshiremen.
Yeah, it was the final scoreline, definitely a 3-1 win for Calne, but they did it the hard way. Wells leading for much of the game. Harry Foster among the leading scorers this season. He put the away side ahead, and then actually had a chance to double his tally, but saw his penalty saved just before half time to pretty much keep Calne in it. With then 20 minutes left on the clock, the home side managed to get back on level terms. Jamal Chevalot, recently signed from Caution, getting them on, getting it back to 1-1, and then the same man scored twice more in the final 15 minutes to salvage an excellent victory for Calne, as you say, table topping, and a brilliant hat-trick from Chevalot, who looks to be a pretty astute signing. You'd think should help Calne in front of goal over the next couple of months.
Now, Calne Town, of course, are jointly managed by Ben Redford, and Ben over the years has been a great supporter of the podcast, and I've very much enjoyed our conversation. So when I saw that Calne had taken their place at the summit of the First Division, I thought this was a great opportunity to get Ben on to the podcast. I know it's only October, but I started off my interview with Ben by congratulating him on topping the table.
If you said at the start of the season after 10 games you'd be top of the league, then obviously we'd snatch your hands off. But obviously it's early days. We know there's still a long way to go, and we're just enjoying it while we're there for the time being.
Well, you did it in style at the weekend, didn't you, against Wells City? Of course, they've been going incredibly well this season, like yourselves. And if they had won that game, then it would have been them who'd have been on top. But it was you in the end. You must have known going into this, though, it was going to be a difficult game.
Start of the season, I did say, seeing the players they signed, I did say Wells, for me, would be the title favourites. I'm not changing my opinion on that. They've got a very good side. They've had good results, score a lot of goals. We knew it was going to be a tough game. We knew we would have to be at our best. So all the lads were up for it. We went down 1-0 quite early on, but lads stuck to the plan. We knew we could get the job done in the second half. So it was a good result for us and gives us more confidence.
Well, of course, you've mentioned Wells there being one of your pre-season favourites. You've also come up against the likes of Ashton and Backwell, Longwell Green and Cheddar. So what do you make of the runners and riders in the First Division title race?
Do you know what? We've had to have the toughest fixtures in the first 10 games we played. Played Radstock, Cheddar, Backwell, Longwell Green, Oldland. There's not much between any of them. I think in any of the 10 games we played, there's not a lot between any of the sides we played. There's no easy game in this league. To be honest, league favourites after seeing everyone, it's hard to say now, but I would still stick with Wales will be up there. I think Cheddar will be up there, but the three Bristol sides I mentioned in Backwell, Longwell Green and Oldland, they'll be right up there as well.
Well, one other side that might well be up there is Calne. How do you think you're going to go this campaign?
To be honest, we didn't set any targets at the start of the season. We lost a lot of good players from last year, so it's a bit of a rebuilding job. So it's good to be up there now, but we know it's a long season. Last season it was similar. We had a great start. We were probably one of the teams to beat. We went on a good unbeaten run, and then after Christmas faded away, so we were forgotten about. But I'd like to be out there come the end of the season, but I'm not going to say, we're going for promotion or we're going to win the league. It's too early to say anything like that. It's 38 games in the season. We've only played 10. So if we can be top half again, I'm being realistic here, then we'd be happy with that.
You mentioned you had plenty of comings and goings in the pre-season. I know that's always quite disruptive for a side. In terms of the players that you've brought in, are there any new names that the fans should be keeping an eye out for?
Yeah, so we've signed Aaron Whittle's come back from Chippenham Park. He was with us the year before and he's come back. He's been excellent. Signed a new goalkeeper, Sam Thompson, who played for Melksham at the end of last year. He's also been at Corsham, Chippenham Park, Cadbury Heath. So he's been a great sign. He's been superb. Signed Jay Calne, who's a striker. He's come from Amesbury. There's two lads who come up from the under-18s and reserves last year. Declan Mastravik and Oscar Webster. They've been a breath of fresh air. They come pre-season with us, trained hard, played really well in the games. We stuck them in, and yeah, they don't look out of place one bit. They've been superb. And other new signings, we've got Jamal back from Corsham and Mark Dolman. So yeah, it is a new squad, to be honest.
Well, you've certainly started the season well. So those new faces are certainly settling in, which is to your credit. Now you've got Welton Rovers coming up next. Now we never know quite which Welton Rovers side you're going to get, so it's not a game you can take lightly, is it?
Yeah, to be honest, there's no point us beating Wales, shouting and making noise about that if we don't go to Welton and win again. Then back it up. That's what we need to start doing now. We need to start winning consecutively, winning game after game. We know Welton, it's always a tough place to go. We know they'll be hard to beat. Like every game in this league, you need to be at your game, otherwise you will be beat. So yeah, you need to get the players in the right frame of mind, go there with the intent to win.
Backing the game, backing your win against Wales up against Welton, I think is a really important theme for those sides at the top of the table, because we see season in, season out, and particularly in the First Division, it's such an inconsistent league. You've obviously been involved now with the side in the First Division for a couple of seasons. So how important is it to be a bit streetwise about, keeping the league table ticking over?
Do you know what? Last year, I think we went on a really good winning run, and prime example here, I think we beat Longwell Green 4-3, and that was like our 5th win on the bounce. We then went to Telephones, who were bottom of the league, and drew 1-1. So that sort of summed it up, really. What we need to do this year is start winning game after game to get real momentum, because teams are just taking points off anyone this year. I think the last 3 or 4 years, there's 2 teams who run away with it. They get over 90 points, and then there's a gap. I don't think it'll be like that this year. I think you could be talking high 70s, 80 points will win you that league, and there'll be teams. I think there's about 8 to 10 teams this year who really believe they can win the league. If not, they'll get promotion. So you need to be at your game every single week if you want to achieve anything.
How much do you think that the conditions will play a part in this season's campaign? Because obviously, I mean, you've had a fantastic start. But as we head out of October into November, we can all see what the weather's doing at the moment. I mean, it's we've got constant rain, and we know it's going to get worse over the Christmas period and into January, February with hard pitches and snow as well. So is part of it about not being necessarily a purist about your playing style and actually being able to adapt to different grounds and different conditions?
Yeah, massively. There's certain grounds you don't want to go to in the winter. We do like to play football, we'd like to get the ball on the deck, but there's games this year where we haven't had the players to do so we've had to adapt, we've had to be hard to beat. So yeah, the pitches play a massive part in that. So yeah, we will have to adapt even more, but I believe we can do so.
Now, Welton Rovers, we were just talking about there. They're the first of 3 away games for you on the spin, and that little run finishes with an away trip to Tavistock, of all places, on Wednesday the 30th. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I didn't really want to be reminded about the Tavistock one, but especially midweek. But yeah, we got, I think it's Welton this Saturday, and then I think it's Portishead the following week. So
that's right.
Every game's tough in this league, like I keep saying, but especially away ones. It's just about getting a consistent squad. Our squad's thin enough as it is, but as long as we keep everyone fit and everyone, if everyone travels, then I think, there's no reason why we can't come out of those games with positive results.
Now, one final question for you, Ben. I certainly enjoy our conversations on the podcast, but of course you're one half of the management duo at Calne. Perhaps we should save the final words to your co-manager, Trevor Rawlings.
So obviously in the summer, back in the last season, Clive decided to step down, and so did Aaron Hodkinson, our assistant. So it was a bit of a strange summer, really. The club gave me they said to me, look, who do you want to be alongside with you? So I'll be honest, there was only really one person I was going to talk to first, and that was Trev. I had a few conversations with him, shared the same ideas. He knew what the club was about. So he come in. He's been great, to be honest. He's experienced at this level. I learn a lot off him. He's good with the players. He wants things done properly. So yeah, he's been great. And then we've got Liam Jones as our assistant, who's great. He does a lot of the coaching at trainings. He takes the warm-ups. He's good in the changing rooms. So yeah, it's a good little management team we've got going, and hopefully we can build something good at Calne.
And my thanks to Ben for his time. Now, one more game in the First Division, and it was the game that I was at. It is Radstock Town, the Miners, against Cheddar, who, of course, have been going incredibly well in the First Division themselves this season.
Yeah, indeed. Cheddar, a little bit of a sticky patch at the moment. I think it's four defeats from 5, but they come from behind, win for Radstock in this one. The Cheesemen going ahead. Robbie Magg's deflected effort looked to be handing them a crucial away victory, but Radstock managed to find something in the final 20 minutes, and 2 goals from James Rustall. Brilliant man in form at the moment. As I say, he scored twice, and a 2-1 win for Radstock at home to Cheddar.
Well, Tom, I really can't add a great deal to your synopsis of the game there, because I think that's probably how I would have put it. I was commentating on the game, would you believe, listeners? I try and keep my hand in a couple of times throughout the season just to keep me in good order for the Les Phillips Cup final. But it was an opportunity that Radstock asked me to do as part of the support we were promoting for non-league day, which I was very happy to do. But if you want to appreciate just how good the game was, please, whatever you do, don't listen to me butchering it with my appalling commentary. Although I must say I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and the company of Sam Gregory, who of course is one of Radstock's strikers, but he's injured. He's been on a long-term injury. We had a thoroughly good time on Saturday, and there are highlights on YouTube, and I would recommend you watch them, because it is no small exaggeration to say that I felt that this was a fantastic advertisement for the Toolstation Western League, let alone the First Division. And I say that not necessarily because we saw the greatest skillful football on the day. The conditions played their part. As we all know, there'd been a huge amount of rain over the last few days, and I genuinely feared that the game wouldn't be taking place. I had a little bit of a look at the ground on Friday afternoon with the Radstock chairman, Simon Wilkinson, and although the game was holding up well then, unfortunately we were scheduled to have rain all night and all day. As it turned out, that wasn't the case, and that's what saved the fixture, and I'm really pleased that it did. It was one of those classic occasions when you see on Champions League and Premier League football where they're watering the pitch, they're looking for the ball to zip off of it, and that caused both teams problems. But I will say this, that both sides are incredibly well drilled and played an incredibly structured game, which not only made my life as a commentator easier, but it also gave a great deal of pleasure to the 71 people who made it to Southfields to watch that game. Incredibly close in the first half. I would have said that Radstock edged it in terms of possession, but Cheddar certainly had the better chances on goal, and probably were more dissatisfied not to go in than Radstock. In the second half, when Cheddar took the lead, I thought that was it. I've watched enough of Radstock over the years, the gloriously inconsistent, consistent side in the First Division, to think, right, okay, the heads are going to go down, and Cheddar, who are obviously a very strong side, are going to take this away from them. That wasn't the case. Radstock battled, and Rustell was absolutely sublime. A lot of Radstock's wide players, Rico Sobers in particular, came into their own in the second half and really exploited pace in the game, and that made ultimately the difference. That game carried on as a contest until well after the 90th minute, and there were some incredible saves right at the death by both goalkeepers that really, under different circumstances, would have seen goals scored. And indeed, in fairness to Cheddar, there was a fantastic goal line clearance as well from one of the defenders, which really arguably should have given Rustell his hat-trick on the day. It was a wonderful, wonderful game to be present at. Cheddar, unfortunately, went home with no points, but as far as I was concerned, I felt that was they played their part in a really wonderful game of football. As I say, whatever you do, don't listen to my commentary. You can find it on the Western League's Twitter feed, But do have a look on YouTube, because really, without my words, the players did their bit to really entertain. So a thoroughly entertaining match there. I'm going to shut up now because I did far too much talking on Saturday. We are going to look at the upcoming fixtures now, Tom. A couple of big FA Vase games. On Tuesday the 15th, we have Bitton against Tadley Caliva, and then on Wednesday the 16th, Romsey take on Plymouth Puckway, and we do have a First Division game on Friday the 18th. So a bit of Friday night football there between Wales and Oldland. But of course, the main order of business is Saturday the 19th of October. Which game has tickled your fancy in the Premier Division?
I've plumped for Calne versus Exmouth. Now, Calne obviously champions of the First Division last year. Probably were hoping to do something similar to Westbury. Obviously last year, after they'd come up, had a really good first season in the Premier Division. But it's not quite gone their way so far. But I don't think that's that's not. I think they're definitely capable of turning that around. They've scored 11 league goals in the last 4 games without getting a victory. So I think they're due one. But obviously taking on an Exmouth side, another win for them in the Vase last weekend. So they're a tough nut to crack. Obviously Exmouth, but a trip to Calne, who I wouldn't call them free scoring, but they're definitely having a good go in front of goal. So I think it'll be a pretty entertaining game, and I'm definitely backing both teams to score. Potentially a home win for Calne, which may be long overdue.
Now my pick of the bunch is Tavistock against Westbury. On their day, these are two very, very difficult sides to beat in the Premier Division, and that's really what I'm banking on in this fixture here. I think Tavistock are, without question, the favourites here. I think perhaps they've had a slow start to this league campaign, basically because they haven't been able to play any league games because they've been in so many cup competitions. So they're going to want to start racking up the points in the league. On paper, without question, the favourites, but Westbury are a very difficult nut to crack. If Neil Kirkpatrick knows anything, it's how to win football matches. He proved that last season, and I think Westbury will give Tavistock a very stern test. Now then, moving on to the First Division, and which game have you gone for here, Tom?
Gone for Cheddar versus Longwell Green. So obviously Cheddar, as we discussed, four losses in 5, I think the stat was, following that late defeat against Bradstock on the weekend, and taking on a Longwell Green side who've got 10 points from their last 5 games. So doing really well at the moment. Hat-trick for Danny Carter in their big win on the weekend. Another difficult match for Cheddar. Obviously the pressure's on them a bit. Interesting to see how they cope with an informed Longwell Green side.
Now I'm going to go for Sherborne Town against Radstock Town. These are the two sides that find themselves locked together in the First Division. Radstock in 8th, Sherborne in 9th, so the winner will ultimately go above the other. Sherborne have been doing they've had a good start this season. Of course, so have Radstock. But these are two sides that don't do anything by halves. Capable of winning on their day, but equally they've lost a fair few games as well. Neither side has yet to draw, so I think we can probably rule that out as an outcome on Saturday. Although now I've said that, of course, Tom, that's probably guaranteed that will be the result between the two of them. Anyway, I reckon if you want to see a result and some goals, then Sherborne Town against Radstock is the one for me. We did league tables last week, so today we will revel in the goal scorers. And I'm very much looking forward to the First Division list, because a man I saw in fine shooting form is right at the top of that. Anyway, we won't get ahead of ourselves, Tom. Mm-hmm. I shall let you take us from the top and the Premier Division's leading goal scorers.
So as you say, First Division, I think you know who's leading the way, but in the Premier Division, we've got Adam Carter of Plymouth Parkway. He's looking tough to track down at the moment. League goals only, he's got 16 already, and then there's a group of four chaps on 9 goals. We've got Jack Taylor of Bridgewater, Jack Fillingham of Shepton Mallet, Lucas Fowles of Clevedon, and then Bitton's Josh Egan. They're all on 9, so 7 behind Carter, who's made an absolutely brilliant start to the season for Parkway. And then in the First Division, obviously, a man you know is in good form. James Rustall of Bradstock, 13 league goals so far this season. He leads the way at the moment. We've got another chap on double figures. That's Harry Foster of Wales. He's up to 10, and then a couple of guys on 9 as well. So we've got Stuart Windsor of Calne, and Danny Carter, who I just briefly mentioned there, of Longwell Green, whose hat-trick took him to 9 and 9 this season. So he's doing well in league games as well. And then if we look at all competitions, well, Jack Craigo. So you mentioned about Tavistock not having played too many league games. They have played plenty of cup games, though, and he's now got 20 goals in all competitions this year. I wouldn't quite go as far to call him a cup specialist, because I'm sure he's got plenty of league goals up his sleeves to come over the next couple of months. But yeah, he leads the way on 20. We've got Rustle, he's got 18, Carter on 16, and then plenty of the similar names that I've just mentioned there: Foster, Taylor, Fillingham, Vase, and then we've got a couple of others who've just reached double figures. Stuart Windsor of Calne, who's on 10. And Gary Higdon of Bradford, who's also on 10. So that's how it lies at the moment.
Excellent stuff, Tom. Thank you very much indeed for your time, as always. We've been reviewing your excellent bulletin, which, of course, not only is it full of the statistics from the league's leading goal scorers, but also we've got top attendances, league tables, and your excellent match summaries as well. Where can the listeners find that?
That is on the website. There's a tab along the top which takes you to the most recent one. And then also on the homepage, there is a place where you can download the latest copy in PDF format. And that should as you say, should have everything you need come Sunday lunchtime.
Superb. Tom, thank you very much indeed
Pleasure.
for your time. And I look forward to catching up with you on next week's Tool Station Western League podcast.